I don't know why. I just feel like wait for it, making a video. Barney Stinson, man. Barney Stinson. Wait for it. Gary. Yeah. So if you hear cursing next door, uh, the girl that lives next door is fighting with her boyfriend right now, and there's a lot of f bombs being dropped. So if you hear birds and f bombs, you know why. They're fighting. Somebody asked me yesterday. This was hysterical, by the way, because I don't get sick. I never get sick. I can't even remember the last time I had a cold. Um, and my buddy, my buddy Steve was just like, "Yeah, man, like you never get sick, like ever." And I was like, "Yeah, that's because I stay away from women and processed food." Women meaning like girlfriends. Because we just got finished talking about how like the Buddhists don't even believe in touching women because it leads to suffering. Because not only do you have to combat your own desiring in life, if you attach to a woman, you also have to deal with or pick up somebody else's desiring, right? So, for instance, like if I wake up in the morning and I go about my normal day, I'm like, well, everything's cool, everything's taken care of. But if I have a girlfriend or a wife, she might be like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to like go to Starbucks right now? Which means we'd have to go. Because if you say no, well, then you're just an a-hole and you're neglecting her needs and what she wants in life. So she's probably going to break up with you or be miserable or not want to be with you anymore. Or she's just going to be agreeable and, and you don't want to do that to somebody. So you would go to Starbucks. Better example of that is shopping. You like hanging out, and then girlfriend would be like, "Hey, let's I don't want to get involved in this conversation. It's going to lead to a dead end. It's going to lead into very bad things." Because then I'd have all these people commenting on my site like, "You're a sexist pig," that kind of crap. But like I was going to talk about having children and what you have to do to sacrifice your life for the children because you obviously need to do things financially for those kids. So that leads to desire and picking up things. But after I was talking to my buddy Steve about this, we both said to ourselves like, yeah, but if you remove women from life, if you're just a straight up Buddhist living on the temple, life gets very freaking boring. And like women add a lot of happiness to your life, and connection, and conversation, and fulfillment, and joy, and just abundance of other things. It's a beautiful experience, and it's very hard not to fall in love. I mean, I'm not screwing with you. Like it's really hard not to fall in love. Like once you fall in love, man, hey, there's a bunny rabbit. Oh, that's awesome. I haven't seen a rabbit in like days. I don't know where they went. Oh, cool, man. They tend to come out more when it rains. Like it rained last night pretty hard, so like since it rained last night, bunnies are out. Mad props. So I'm gonna have to start wishing for rain at night. So yeah, pretty much the conclusion we came. Oh, okay, yeah. So you should just date people. It's fun. And adventure, another one. Yeah. So if you're just not gonna date people your entire life, you're gonna be peaceful on top of a mountain. You're gonna be like, I've attained peace and enlightenment. But after like 5 days of that, you can get freaking bored. You can be like, God damn it, man. Didn't mean to curse. Be like, oh man, I wish I had a girlfriend. What? Holla at your boy, you know? So, it was so, that was so lame. So, so I totally promote getting girlfriends and stuff like that. And I do dabble in the tradition of getting girlfriends. Because one of the reasons for that is because you cannot stop yourself from falling in love with people. It's impossible. Like, honestly. You know, like a lot of those Buddhist monks, like the amount of discipline that goes into not being around women and not even touching women, you know that you just know that there's like millions of Buddhist monks in Thailand, just in Thailand. And you know for a fact that a great portion of them are in love with like a villager woman or a villager girl in the nearby village or in their village. You know. And they probably think about that girl all the time. They probably think about that woman constantly. You know, and they say like, you know, like, oh, you know, I don't, you know, but come on, man. Love is love, and you cannot stop love from happening. Also, you can't make yourself fall in love with somebody. That's impossible too. So if you're married to somebody that you fell out of love with and you're not in love with anymore, good luck with that, dude. Or arranged marriages, that kind of thing, where you have to marry a specific person, but you're not in love with that person, that ain't gonna happen, man. And then people are like, oh, you could fall in love with somebody, it could happen, you know, if two people spend enough time in a house for long enough, and, you know. I don't think so, man. Like, I have a really good friend, Natasha, and, like, Natasha, to me, is just Natasha. Like, I love her to death. She's, like, one of my best friends ever. But it's just, like, that's it, man. Like, it's just, like, she's just my best friend. And it's just, like, I have, like, several like that. Like, I have a best friend, Renee. And it's the same as Natasha. It's just, like, yeah, Renee's Renee. Like, Renee's, like, she was my best friend growing up. Never saw her as anything else. So I think there's certain people you can fall in love with, and certain people you just, you know, I think it has something to do with, like, energy and chemicals in the brain. Like, certain things get released when, like, you fall in love. You just know. So interesting. I've fallen in love so many times in my life. It's sickly. Like, I'm an artist, so me falling in love is extremely easy. Like, I've probably fallen in love too many times, and I think that's one of the reasons why it's very hard for me to actually settle down with somebody and get married, because I fall in love, like, on a daily basis. It's ridiculous. Like, I'll see somebody at, like, Cumberland Farms, or, like, you know, Publix, or whatever grocery store you have in your area, and I'm like instantly in love. I'm like, oh my god, that girl's like, you know where I really fall in love a lot? Airports. I've had a lot of like love encounters at airports where if I have like a 14-hour layover, I'll end up like making out with a girl or kissing a girl during that 14-hour layover. I'm very good at like persuasion and I don't want to say trickery, but if I want to pursue something, I'm pretty good at it. And a lot of it has to do with the fact that I'm very good at psychology. And Dale Carnegie and Carl Rogers and learning what people desire, what people want, what people are into, and what it really is. To sum it up, there's a lot of things. But don't focus on you, focus on them. The one thing people remember about you is how you made them feel. That's a Simon Sinek line, by the way. So when you meet somebody, the one thing that they remember about you when you're with them or when you leave them is how you made them feel. Because when you leave, they're going to think about you later that day. Or then the next time that they have to meet you. Then you'll be like, wow, that person made me feel so good. I absolutely love being around them, and I don't know why. And the reason why they love being around you, and they don't know why, is because you made them feel valued, seen, heard, cared about. You listened to them. You asked them questions. You were interested in their life. You were interested in what they were passionate about, what they loved to do. And you came off as a caring, unconditionally loving listener that did not give advice. You just listened, and you found them interesting. And you wanted to know what they were passionate about. And that is how you win people over. Unfortunately, we live in a society that is very concentrated on looks, and our society is very shallow. A lot of that comes from evolutionary things, because humans have been around for millions of years, and we've decided what is a good mate and what's not a good mate. And usually women do the selecting, men do not. And evolutionary wise, we're also into certain facial features. There's this one, he's the most sought after plastic surgeon in Los Angeles. You have to pay $1 million. This is where all the Hollywood actors go and things like that. This guy has mastered the face. And he said that there's a centimeter difference between this line and the top lip line. And if it's a centimeter too long, you're not attracted to the human race. But if it's perfectly in the centimeter realm and it's not too long, you're attracted to the human race. And that's all it takes, a centimeter. Whether you're an unattractive person to people, or whether you're an attractive person to people. Also, if this side of your face reflects that side of your face, you're attractive. And there's several other things. The jawline, that's another one. There's so many. It's ridiculous. On top of all that, we also live in a society, it starts from pretty much birth. They were talking about, the psychologist I was listening to the other day was talking about how in Disney movies that little girls watch and boys watch, the princesses or the females that are seen as the good people have, for the most part, bodies that are unattainable. And the villains, the female villains, they're overweight. They are stick figure skinny, where they don't have breasts. They have all of these bodies that are pretty, they're average bodies. I mean, people have those bodies. But Disney makes out those women to be villains and to be evil. So from a very young age, little girls and boys are seeing images of the good people as extremely just these bodies that are unattainable. Even the men characters. And the villainous people as people with bodies that you should not have. So freaking scary. And once you get over those Disney movies, you have the Marvel movies, the Avenger movies, the comic book movies. And those movies are focused on the men being just the hottest men alive, the perfect bodies. And you have the women, even though they claim they don't do this shit, sorry to curse, but you look at Captain Marvel, she's like stunningly good looking with the perfect body. You look at Black Widow, Scarlett Johansson, she's one of the hottest women in the world. Like, she was sexiest woman of the world like a million times in GQ and Esquire. So it's just like, what are we doing? We are setting up these unattainable goals. You know how many people in the world have Scarlett Johansson's body? Like, percentage-wise? Maybe 3% of the world. Maybe 4% of the world have, I don't know. But that might be low. But honestly, it's an unattainable body. And when you're showing this body to little kids and teenagers, like me, for instance, I have the frame of a lacrosse player. No matter how much I work out, I am never going to look like Captain America. I'm never going to look like Thor. I'm just not. But we say that, like, if you want to be a man, and if you want to attract women, if you want to be heroic, you need to look like Thor or Captain America. So it's just like, yeah, we got major problems here. We do. There ain't no question about it. And the more and more that we show these images to children and teenagers, or even to us, we become very self-conscious of our figure, our body, and our looks. And it's ridiculous. We live in a very shallow society. Even commercials. There was this one, this really ticked me off, man. I'm gonna throw this down, right? So, there's this one Christian song, and I was staying at somebody's house a couple days ago, and that person might be watching this video, so I didn't really speak up about it when I was there. Maybe I did. So anyways, this Christian song was about battling through the day and being happy, and whenever anybody got this hat, they became euphorically happy, because that meant they had the power of Christ on their head, which resembled the hat. The hat resembled Christ, or believing Christianity, right? So they became euphorically happy as soon as they had that hat put on their head. The video had about 30 people in it, men and women. There was probably about 10 to 15 women in that video. All of them, every single one, had a body that was unattainable by most people. They had a figure that was unattainable by most humans. Like, they had the perfect body, no body fat, like, the breast that we consider like attractive breast. And not one of them was overweight. Not one of them was just like an average looking human. They were all women. All 10 to 15 of those women in that Christian, and that's a Christian video, for God's sakes, all had bodies that were unattainable to most people. And that's the message we're even sending out in Christian music videos. I mean, like, where does it stop? It's ridiculous. If anything, Christianity should be the opposite of that. It should be accepting you for whatever you are, because the exterior, the outside of you, does not matter. It's an internal practice. It's everywhere. Because people like to look at bodies that are unattainable. It's a real issue now. There are these websites. I didn't know this until I listened to psychiatrists talking about Disney villains and Disney females and males, and how we start eating disorders at a very young age, both bulimia and anorexia. And she was also talking about these websites on the internet where people list their height and their weight and like how much body fat they have, what they eat every day, and how much weight they're losing. And it's to promote and to talk about how not eating is like the best way to live, because you're attaining these bodies that we're seen as attractive. It's just like, and there's this thing that's developing now called it has something to do with sleep, where you sleep like 15-18 hours a day, and then you wake up and you eat a couple baby carrots, and then you walk on the treadmill, and then you go back to bed again. And people are actually doing that. And there's like women and men giving it advice, saying like, this is how I just dropped like 7 pounds, and I'm like 0 point like, whatever body weight or whatever. And it's man. So anyways, that started off as a pretty nice video, and then it ended really like bad. I was thinking this morning, like my neighbors, the ones that are fighting, they're black, and I know a lot of black people. I spend a lot of time with black people, and I thought to myself, like, with all this craziness that's happening right now, I have this major viewpoint that whenever you set up a country run on slavery, it's always doomed to fail. And when we started this country, the rich white people did not want to do the work themselves. So they brought in a bunch of black people to do the work for them. And we haven't given them the same rights ever since we freed them from slavery. We've segregated towns into different codes, where tax codes, Martin Luther King, when he was talking about the civil rights movement. A lot of people don't know that much about Martin Luther King. They just know that I had a dream speech or whatever the case may be. But if you listen to more of his speeches, he talked about a lot of stuff, man. He talked about, the 1%, greedy people that weren't really giving that much money to the people that needed it in this country. And the one thing that he said, and this was actually really nice, he said that the reason why black people and white people don't understand each other is because they're separated, and they just don't spend enough time with each other. They don't know each other. They just don't get to know each other. And that's really true. And it's hard to get to know each other. I remember I was in this town called Gifford. It's like this. It's like a ghetto area. It's a really bad area. Most white people don't go there. And a Kashi, we have this thing every 2 weeks on Saturday where we go in there and we set up a table at the church and we give out, cereal and other foods and things like that. And everybody at Kashi just stood behind the table. They didn't go outside the tables. They didn't, really, leave the safe area. And I've almost died a couple times, and I'm not afraid of death or anything really. So I decided to get out of the safe area because these women and older people were carrying these big boxes, cardboard boxes, and they were filling them up with cereal and powdered milk and rice and things like that. These boxes, they weigh like 20, 25, 30 pounds. When you're done getting all the food, for your house to cook. I was like, I'm gonna go on around the other side, pick up these boxes for these people, and carry it for them while they're getting the food and bring it to them to their car or their house. So I remember this one lady, she, I kept doing that, and I was walking down the road, and this one lady said, I live like pretty far down, so I walked with her. And she lived about like 2 or 3 blocks away from the church. So now I'm just like walking down the road with this like black woman with a box. And I deliver the box to her front steps. And next to her house there were these, 5 or 6 black guys. They were just hanging out, and it was Saturday morning, and they were just like laughing and doing their thing. And there was a lot of that in that town. People in Gifford, they don't stay inside their houses. They congregate outside on the porches, spend time outside. And I like that. It reminded me of Thailand a lot. I would live there if it would be okay. I don't know if it would be. And I was walking down the street after I dropped the box off at this woman's house, and I was walking down the road, and this older black gentleman passed by me. He was probably about 58, 60 years old, and he saw me, and I wasn't in a fear state. I was just walking down the road casually. I'm kind of wearing what I am now, nothing, intimidating. Nothing braggery, just a regular outfit. I wasn't wearing this though, I was wearing like a plain white shirt. And he looked at me and he goes, "Tighten up!" And I was like, okay. Alright, I got you. And then I went home. And I told my sister and my niece that story. So my niece looked it up on like, dictionaries, like, regular dictionary, urban dictionary, like all that stuff. And it turns out that it's a term used in prison for watch out and beware. And I was like, damn, dude. So like, even if you wanted to decrease the separation between the blacks and the whites and, go into the ghetto areas and like get to know each other, you'd be taking a risk. If a black person went into a rich white area, they would most likely have the cops pull them over, maybe even plant some marijuana on them, or something worse. Or they would just arrest them for no reason. Or they would just make up a reason for them doing something badly, and they would choke them on the ground, might kill them. Because it's happened. That's why people stay where they're supposed to be. And America's set up this law where if you're black, you stay there. If you leave your area, the cops are gonna get you. That's no joke, man. Most people know that. That's why it's hard to be a black person in this country. If you're a white person and you go into the ghetto, you might have a 62-year-old guy telling you to tighten it up. So how are we going to solve this problem? Because I think what Martin Luther King said is correct, but how are we going to make that work? How are we going to set that in motion? My sister believes that public schools are going to change because black people and white people are in the same classrooms and they get to know each other and they love each other, just like I do out on the basketball court. When I'm out on the basketball court and I'm hanging out and I'm like shooting around with like a bunch of black people, I have a great time with them. There's no separation. We both came together. Public schools. Alright guys, peace out. Have fun.